This is Smooth 98.1. We love music and we love life. On a Monday morning, you're tuned into the Smooth Breakfast, your perfect start to the day and to the week as well. Ayokunmi here with you. It's that time to get into some business stories on Business Express, brought to you by InterSwitch. That's what we do every single morning at this time of the day, just to let you know what's been going on in that space. Welcome along to the ride. It is an interactive session, so you can join us and share your thoughts on the stories we're talking about this morning. WhatsApp is the way to get through to us, 08094440981. We're also streaming on YouTube. You can catch that at Smooth 981 FM Lagos. Smooth 981 FM Lagos. A couple of things to actually get into this morning, but joining me is the one, the only Oler Oladele. Good morning to you, Ola. Great to have you
Good
on
morning,
Business Express.
Yeah, nice to be here.
Absolutely fantastic to have you on. A couple of things to get through this morning, talking about the oil sector, looking at FX supply. But let's start with oil. I mean, that is one thing that has been at the forefront of a lot of conversation in the last couple of weeks, especially concerning the Crude-for-naira sales. Now, the federal government have said that it has commenced sales of crude oil and other refined products in Naira. Now, it said the initiative actually commenced on the 1st of October without providing further details on the contractual agreement signed and pricing of the product. Let me just leave it at that and just ask you straight right off the bat, what does that imply for the cost of fuel?
I think the first thing I would say is that I like the way you introduced that by saying that the federal government says, because there's still some debate about whether it has actually
I
started
mean,
or not. So we will just quote them and believe that it has started. But in terms of what it implies, Crude-for-naira, basically, for me, I think it's more of a national security thing. When I say national security, I there are some things that are too critical to our economy and society, life and living as Nigerians that should be within our control. First of all, the reason I say that is because we have the crude oil. The crude oil is ours.
okay.
We're not importing from anywhere. So if you are saying that you're going to be
Mhm.
selling crude oil to refineries in Nigeria, beyond the profitability, the numbers, and all that, I think the first thing is that it's good for our national security. That's the first thing, because we are not going to be hustling for any other currency to deliver on obligations locally. That's the first thing. Now, in terms of the cost of fuel, because I personally believe that even if you are selling crude for naira, I think that logically, so that the accounts will balance, if oil prices are
Mm.
$90 abroad, what you're just going to be doing, even though we don't have details, is that you are going to say what is $90 in naira, what is the
In
official exchange
Naira.
rate, and that's what you're going to be selling at. However, so that I do not necessarily think that it will make the cost of fuel cheaper. However, what it will do is that even though those additional costs, after you do the price of the crude and you now want to calculate the cost of fuel, there's some other layered costs that would also have been in naira. There, I think that those
Mm.
things will also have been in USD. They will now be in naira. That's one. And then I think that where we might be able to take out some cost is in those landing costs. That's the shipping, clearing, all
Right.
those costs
Right.
that we have had to be paid for because we are refining locally. Those costs will not be there anymore. However, as a whole, I think that the cost of oil will still be tied to the cost of crude oil globally. From a balance sheet perspective, I don't see how um, you could sell to someone abroad for $90, and then you now decide you want to sell to your country and you now sell it to them at 60. I'm not sure how that would jive, right? But I think that where we would save money from
Okay.
is from that whole the cost of shipping in and stuff, one, and then also the fact that at least in naira there's the story of there's no fuel because we don't have dollar to pay anybody, blah blah blah. That conversation is over. So it might not necessarily directly impact the cost of
Mm.
fuel in a significant manner, especially if oil prices go up. But it will help things. It will just make the economy better.
Okay, I mean that is a positive, I guess, and of course you're talking about at least there'll be availability because even till now, there's still a couple of little queues for fuel here and there. I mean, weeks after the whole debacle actually began, and you just begin to wonder, will we ever be free of the shackles of queuing for fuel at different, areas in the country? That in itself is very debilitating. Let's talk about FX, another big deal in Nigeria. Now, the Central Bank of Nigeria disclosed that it sold a total sum of $543.5 million at the rate of 1,514 naira and 1,580 naira to authorized dealers banks between September 6 and September 30, 2024. Now, after this supply, why are we still at an exchange rate of 8,700 naira to the dollar? Or is that a different kettle of fish entirely?
I would say it's a different kettle of fish entirely. And the reason I would say that is because when central bank is selling to authorized banks, is like that means our regular banks, right? That's what they're called. What they are doing is they are meeting specific demand. Meaning that I was going to use oil importer, but let's say we're not importing oil anymore. But let's say a shipping company or somebody that is importing food or whatever goes to their bank, has an LC, blah, blah, blah. They get funded, they get dollars, they go to central bank, get dollars, sell to the clients. That's one. But there's the street demand, right? There are those things that you can't necessarily walk into your bank to buy dollars for. Do you understand? There is that.
Right.
And so what has happened and is still happening really is that there's still that disconnect between the price that the market, that's the official interbank market is trading FX, and the market that's the regular Joes on the street are buying FX. Now, in the past, what used to happen is that when CBN sells to the authorized banks, they would also do like some massive supply to BDCs. And it's from the BDC angle that you would feel that impact in the unofficial parallel black market, as we call it. But what we are seeing is that central bank supplying the BDC, supplying the banks, but we are not seeing that level of supply in BDCs. And of course, if demand is more than supply, price will go up. That's all we are seeing, simply.
Definitely. Interesting thoughts there. Let's talk about let's go about MPR hikes here, because I actually saw the story and it caught my eye, and I would love to get your take on this. But let me just lead us into the heart of the matter. Now, leading deposit banks in Nigeria have recorded a 141.75% year-on-year increase in their interest income for the half year ended June 2024 on the back of consistent hikes in interest rates by the Central Bank of Nigeria. Of course, I mean, we all know that in the last MPC meetings that actually held a couple of weeks ago, rates were once again high, and now this story has come out a lot. Can you just make sense of this for us?
So, like, once the central bank takes up MPR, which is like the benchmark rate, all the rates follow it. Meaning that treasury bills rates, bonds rates, the rate at which banks will price their mortgages, everything, all the loans, everything will be repriced accordingly. Now, what is simply happening is that the banks have repriced because central bank has repriced. However, the banks have not repriced their cost of funds, meaning their, for example, current account balance is always going to be zero at the cost. Like you don't get any returns from putting your money in a current account. Number one, savings accounts rates have not significantly increased on the back of all these increases. So what is happening is that, first of all, the nominal amount that banks are making from interest assets, right, meaning from their loans and whatever, is going to go up, and it has gone up, and it's going to be up for a while. But the unfortunate thing is that while the banks are benefiting from it, the people that are really suffering are the businesses that are paying this interest, this high interest. So it's almost like man's meat is that man's poison. However, me as an investor, as someone who runs an investment community, I always say that if you see the handwriting on the wall, follow the person that is going to benefit from it. In this situation, the banks are going to benefit from it. So you see them. So how do you follow them? By investing in their shares, that's how to benefit from the situation, because it might not look good from one angle because businesses are going to be stressed significantly and potentially could shut down. And in fact, it might also lead into higher non-performing loans for banks. There's also that part. So it's a fine art. It's not just keep raising rates and think people won't suffer for it, because there's that part also. However, generally, banks are benefiting even from just buying FGN bonds, which are 20%, or buying treasury bills with effective yields of over 25%. So, I mean, from that angle, banks are happy.
Okay, interesting thoughts there. Now, finally, let's still stick with banks. Let's run through this one very quickly and talk about Zenith Bank, who had service downtime this past week, I think from Tuesday or thereabouts. And they announced that customers could finally perform a transaction seamlessly on all their channels. Now, they disclosed this in a notice on Friday. I mean, from Tuesday, it said due to system maintenance. For those who can't see me, I'm throwing air quotes right here in the studio. Now, there was massive disruption across board. I can't even begin to imagine what those who bank with them, heavily had to go through. What are the untold implications of this downtime? And really, how come there isn't any, should I say, backlash or repercussions to this?
I honestly think just making an announcement that, oh, you can start banking right now, it was too cheesy, in my own opinion. Too much of a disregard of the impact these things could have on people, right? On real people. I was at the I was going to buy fuel. I was on the queue. The guy in front of me was using a Zenith Bank card. He was a cab driver. You could see one of those cabs that the car, that is a cab, right? And the fuel guy said, oh, I have to pay. You have to pay first because Zenith Bank cards are not working. You have to pay first before I can give you fuel, or else we'll enter drama. They tried, they didn't go. The guy had to move on. Now, that is someone who probably needs that fuel to actually run his business for the day. If he had another card, he would have brought it out to pay. What that means is that it's the only card he had that either had money, or that was actually the only card that he had. Now, imagine if he was not able to buy fuel for 4 days and someone just comes and says, oh, you can start. For me, I think it's also a risk issue. First, from the fact that why are all your systems, all your platforms, like access platforms, on one system, that if one system shuts down, there's no plan B.
Everything shuts down.
Yes, there's supposed to be disaster management systems in place. I think for a fact that people don't necessarily go to report these banks officially to the central bank, because they should be reported. There should be that formal, oh, this is what happened, this is the impact. They should actually, because you can't just wake up and announce. Like, it's very, very, and I know people that were impacted by it. I know people that were at the airport that needed to buy tickets and we're calling people to pay for them. If you use another bank and you have money there, please pay for me, please transfer money to this other, and they have money in their accounts. So it's one of those things, right? But I think the reason why people, banks, in quote off quote, get away with these things is because people actually don't formally report. We complain, but we actually do not formally report. Because I believe that if you actually formally report with a proof of this was the impact, to regulators, consumer protection, central bank, we don't know who, we actually don't know who, but there should be somebody that should say, guys, this is not okay. This shouldn't happen. At least from a disaster recovery perspective, this should not actually happen. Zenith Bank is too big a bank for this to be happening.
Most definitely. But Ola, before I let you go this one, I mean, is this an indication that, I mean, everyone, like, those who have multiple SIMs for telecoms need to have at least one of the bank accounts where if one decides to misbehave, they can run to that one.
Yeah, but it assumes you have money in all of them now.
You spread it out. Spread the wealth. Spread the wealth.
But so if you put 100K in online, you need 120. What happens? At some point, it just becomes very chaotic. So banks should do what they should do. We're not the only ones that do system upgrades in the world now.
Tayo says on WhatsApp, he says, banks, power and oil sectors are cashing out, but individuals and businesses aren't smiling. This is giving Animal Farm vibes. Zenith Bank will be misbehaving with customer funds, but their share price and quoted performance will remain gallant with no repercussions. at all. Thank you for sharing your thoughts, Taya. And thank you, Ola, for joining me this morning
Thank
on
you.
Business Express. Always a great time having you on.
Bye.
All right, have a great Monday. And Lagos, thank you for being a part of Business Express. Keep it tuned to Smooth 98.1. More great music coming your way as we get set to get into the papers on Freshly Pressed at 7:30.